Hey guys, welcome back to this channel. Now in this video, I'm going to explain what to do now that LocalMonero has shut down. Now LocalMonero is the largest Monero P2P exchange, and it's been around for a long time, and it's had a very large community since its inception. And unfortunately, there hasn't really been much that has taken its place. Now, there are a lot of P2P trading platforms that are out there, but LocalMonero is the only one that was dedicated to Monero trading. And because Monero is such a sensitive crypto, most other P2P exchanges haven't allowed Monero trading onto its platform. So in this video, I'm going to show you what some of the other alternatives are to buying Monero, buying it P2P, doing so ideally without KYC. And the way this video is going to go is I'm going to show you the easiest alternative to the least easiest alternative, and you'll see what I mean in a moment. So my first recommendation is probably what you don't want to hear, but I might as well mention it because it is important, and that is you can use a centralized exchange. Right now, I know you're thinking like, well, I didn't come to go to Monero just so I could KYC and go through all these hoops and stuff like that. But the reason why I mention it is because the reality of buying cryptocurrency, any cryptocurrency on a P2P exchange, is that it's just more expensive. You have to pay above market rate, especially if you're interested in getting cryptocurrency without KYC, and that is definitely the case for buying it if you want to buy Monero. So often, like if you want to buy Monero, say like with TransferWise without KYC on LocalMonero, I mean, it would cost you like 5-6%. So it's just worth pointing out that, sometimes it's not so bad to do it on a spot exchange. And the one that I recommend is MEXC. So there are a few exchanges that do Monero trading, but the reason why I recommend MEXC is just because the spot rate is so fantastic. Right now, MEXC is like competing to be like the lowest fee exchange. So the taker rate is 0.5%, and the make rate is 0%. So it's basically free. That basically means that if you make a limit order and someone else fills it, you're paying 0% on fees, which is really fantastic. There's also the fact that if you hold the MEXC token, that actually goes to give you a discount on fees. And also, if I look at on CoinGecko and look at Monero, MEXC is at least in the top 3% the vast majority of the time when it comes to volume. KuCoin and HTX usually comes in at number 1 and number 2, but the reason why I don't recommend them is just because their fees are a lot higher, so it kind of cancels out the value of dealing on an exchange that will probably give you a better spread. But if the fees are higher, it doesn't really make sense. So by the way, if you want to use MEXC, you can use my referral link in the description down below. Now the second one I want to recommend is an actual P2P crypto exchange. However, the downside is that with Noons, which is this exchange that I want to recommend, is that you actually do have to provide KYC. But on here, you can see that there are a number of different payment methods. Because Monero trading is pretty new on Noons, a solid community hasn't really coalesced yet. And as a result, you don't really get a wide variety of sellers and payment methods. As you can see here, we've got Remitly, M-Pesa, Western Union, RIA money transfers, and all these sellers here are Kenyans, right? So this is pretty much mainly beneficial for you that if you're in Africa and you want to buy Monero. But yeah, that is a little bit of a downside with places like Noons and Paxful, which are quite similar. It's not the best thing to be buying crypto P2P from Africans, just being completely real. It's not really the best, but I recommend it anyway, because let's just say you are from Africa or you do like to use Western Union, MoneyGram, or some of these other methods like Remitly, then Noons can be good for that. And generally speaking, it's trading on Noons is fairly smooth. The only downside, as I mentioned, is that if you want to reduce your exposure to dealing with African sellers, it's probably not the best. And there's not a whole lot of different payment methods available right now. Like, to me, I'm looking for things like normal stuff like TransferWise, Revolut, SEPA, Interac e-Transfer. These are all like very niche payment methods that regular people, like if you're my audience, you're probably not from Kenya. So but it's still worth pointing out, because I think Noons is one of the larger peer-to-peer exchanges. So I think in the future, we're going to see more and more sellers come to this platform. So I think it's good to just kind of have on your radar. And again, you can use my referral link in the description down below if you want to buy Monero peer-to-peer on Noons. Now, getting into my third suggestion, this is what I would recommend out of everything so far. So everything that I mentioned before requires KYC, and everything I'm going to mention after this is maybe going to be a little bit too complex. So the one that I'm recommending now, BitPapa, is kind of like a healthy in-between out of all of them. So with BitPapa, it requires KYC, but only if you're a seller. If you're a buyer, it doesn't require KYC. And unlike Noons, the volume tends to be pretty decent. So you've got a wide variety of sellers doing a lot of different kinds of payment methods. So I've selected USD right now, and all you're seeing right now, all the different payment methods you're seeing are crypto to crypto. So that means, so the payment method here for the first one says Ethereum. So this first one means you can basically buy Monero with Ethereum. You're just doing a crypto to crypto transfer. But as far as fiat transfer options, the first ones we see here, you've got Revolut, that's good. You've got TransferWise, MoneyGram, SendWave. So this is exactly what I would want to see. Like if you've got good volume around these kinds of offers, that is a good sign. And also, like, you can kind of go in the deep end. Like BitPapa it's based in Dubai, and it deals a lot with Russian. So if you're a Russian, you've actually got some good offers here. You can actually trade with rubles, which isn't offered on most of the other exchanges. Most of them are don't deal with rubles because of the current political situation. But BitPapa, yeah, it's got a lot of ruble offers. So if I scroll down, you've got World Remit, Western Union, what else can I see here? And then all these Russian banks I'm not familiar with, VTB, Raiffeisen, Alpha Bank. I don't know what all this stuff is. So it's just good to know that there's just a solid amount of volume on this exchange where a number of different payment methods are available. And so, yeah, you've got rubles and also you've got euros as well. I'm just going to check what kind of payment methods are available for euros. Okay, so all the crypto to crypto ones. Okay, there you go. Revolut, Wise, World Remit, Zoom. So far, I would say that BitPapa is my number one go-to if you want to buy Monero peer-to-peer without KYC. All the other ones that I mentioned previously, as I mentioned, they require KYC. In the case with Noons, the volume isn't great. So I think BitPapa is definitely the way to go. Now, the next recommendation that I want to give you, we're kind of getting a bit lost out in the weeds here, but I might as well recommend them to you if you're an advanced user or if you're just interested in some of the decentralized tools that exist out there. So the next one you can use it's not necessarily an exchange, but it's a method of trading called atomic swaps. Now, you can think of atomic swaps as very similar to decentralized exchanges. Like, think of like a Web3 protocol like Uniswap, PancakeSwap, etc. Atomic swaps are very similar, but it utilizes a few different things. So let's go over the similarities real quick. So you've got decentralization. Both allow users to trade without relying on a centralized authority. Number two, you've got trustless trading, no counterparty risk since trades are either executed in full or not at all. Number three, self-custodial. Users retain control of their private keys and funds throughout the process. And four, blockchain-based. So transactions are recorded on-chain, right? So if you're familiar with DEXs, this is right up your alley. And I'll just mention what some of the differences are, which it's not huge, but I might as well mention them anyway. So how it works is on Monero atomic swaps, it uses cryptographic techniques to swap assets across blockchains, whereas on Web3 it relies on smart contract protocols. On atomic swaps, it's cross-chain, so that means you can swap between XMR, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whereas when you're dealing on DEXs, you're trading like, if you're like on Uniswap, you're just trading like, on the Ethereum blockchain, from say Ethereum ERC20 to like Binance Coin ERC20, right? You don't go from like selling, Ethereum ERC20 to like, Binance Coin BEP20. So that's definitely a positive of atomic swaps. The liquidity model, so relies on peer-to-peer direct swaps, whereas in Web3 they rely on liquidity pools. And yeah, so that's basically all you need to know. If you're interested in using atomic swaps, the number one atomic swap place you can use is Unstoppable Swap. And now, unlike normal exchanges, you actually have to download some client protocol, and then you use it directly from like an app on your computer. So there is a little bit of a learning curve to it. I don't have a video about how to do it right now, but you can go onto YouTube and you can see how to use it. So I've mentioned all the positives of Unstoppable Swaps. It sounds perfect, actually. I mean, essentially a DEX for Monero is really good. So what are the downsides of it? Well, if you're buying Monero on Unstoppable Swaps, I think just because of the lack of liquidity, you end up paying a lot more than you ought to. So, it's not uncommon to pay like 15% above the market rate to 20% above market rate in order to be able to use this service. The other thing is as well, let's just say if you want to do it the other way around, like let's just say if you want to sell Monero in exchange for Bitcoin, one of the problems that you will encounter is the fact that the Bitcoin and the other assets on here tend to be very dirty. So what that means is your chances of encountering funds that were acquired illicitly and are probably blacklisted from exchanges is very high. Now, if you're just buying Monero, it doesn't really matter. But if you're dealing with other things, like let's just say you want to sell your Monero for like Bitcoin or Ethereum, you have to be concerned about the fact that once you have received that Bitcoin, you will then, put that on an exchange. And if those funds have been blacklisted, then you can essentially be barred from using your own funds on the exchange. Those funds will essentially be sanctioned on the exchange, and that's a risk you have to take. But yeah, if you're just buying it, the only downside that I can think of is just that it's really expensive, and it might be a bit timely. I think you have to like put out an order and you have to wait for it to be filled. So it's not like, going to a normal spot exchange where you just put out an order and because of the volume, it gets filled out almost instantaneously. But if you're interested in checking that out, just check it out. I didn't have a referral link for that. Just go to unstoppableswap.net. You can download the client. So you download the app. And that's really is all there is to it. Now, the last one that I recommend is one that I don't really recommend at all. But it's if you're really into Monero trading and you don't mind going in the deep end, this is something that's you might be interested in this method of trading. And I've made a video about it already, which I recommend checking out. And it's called How to Buy Monero on Telegram, which is probably the most risky way to buy cryptocurrency. But it's worth just checking out. You can learn a lot of things if you are able to master this. There's definitely a higher learning curve to it. But basically, there is a group called Peer-to-Peer Community. The actual link is in the description of this video. And what it is, it's a collective of all the top traders, a lot of the top traders on LocalMonero when it shut down. And they formed this group on Telegram. And it's got all of the verified trade, and basically if you want to be a seller on there, you have to go through a verification process where you prove that you are are a particular high volume trader on LocalMonero, and it's run by the largest seller on LocalMonero before it shut down. And there's quite a few things you have to learn in order to be able to trade on here without getting scammed, because scamming is just horrific on this Telegram group, as you can imagine. How it works is you rely on a manual form of escrow. So if you use one of the other exchanges that I've previously mentioned, like Local Coin Swap or HODL or BitPapa, it's basically done automatically. The escrow function is essentially managed by the third party that is the trading platform. But how it works on this peer-to-peer trading community is that you have to rely on an actual individual to be the escrow of the funds. And you can already see how this goes wrong, right? Because if this escrow person is unreliable, then he'll just run away with the person who's selling the funds or whatever. So how it works is you've got on this group a list of verified escrow services, right? So these are people that have been providing this escrow service for a long time. They've done thousands and thousands of escrows, and they're very trusted in the community. And the way it works is you go to the pinned comment on this Telegram group, and you actually have to manually click on the names of these verified traders, these verified escrow providers, and as long as you're working directly through them using that exact process that I described to you just now, you won't have a problem. The way people get scammed is they'll see like one of these traders, right? And they'll type in their username on like the Telegram search bar, and they're going to encounter impersonators, right? And the other thing about impersonators is that you'll have like these impersonators impersonating these large sellers or these large escrow providers, and they'll message you saying like directly and saying, hey, do you want to trade, or etc., etc. But if anyone messages you on this group, there's a pretty high chance that it's a scammer. So the only way to get around that is to click on the pinned comment and actually click on their username to ensure that it's actually the real person. And then you've got like a few other things you can do to verify them, which I really recommend. One is like PGP encryption. That's something you have to learn about. I talk about that in my video. I won't go into that into depth. So all of these sellers will have some PGP protocol they've set in place so you can follow to verify that it's actually it's actually them that you're really communicating with. And there's a few other methods as well that, again, you can check out. But this is not for newbies. This is something that you will get scammed on if you are, if you're not basically like really like deep into this stuff. So it's something that I don't recommend, but it's at least completely uncensorable because it's people dealing directly with other people. Like, it's probably the truest form of peer-to-peer because there's absolutely zero third parties, and the escrow provider, which is a third party, is just an individual. It's not a platform or anything like that. But make that of what you will. Again, out of all my recommendations, I recommend just going to BitPapa. Use my referral link in the description down below if you want a discount on the trading fees, and I'll see you in the next video.